Whether it's a fire, natural disaster, severe weather, or a parade celebrating a Super Bowl win, the Office of Emergency Management, also known as OEM, is ready for anything, anytime. And now they need our help. One of our partners with OEM is here to discuss the Hazard Mitigation Plan and why community input keeps us all safer. And we have a deputy chief from one of our more unique fire stations, Engine 78 at the Philadelphia International Airport. We'll learn how they train and respond to emergencies at one of the busiest airports in the country. Stay with us. Freedom from Fire is up next. Hello, and welcome back to Freedom from Fire. I'm your host, firefighter Camila Bayete-Taylor. I'm currently stationed in our department's Fire Prevention and Code Division. Here at Freedom from Fire, we aim to improve your quality of living by giving you fire and life safety information. We also introduce you to our local safety partners and department leaders. We have two very special guests with us today. In just a few moments, we'll speak with Deputy Chief Kamal Bright of the Airport Rescue Firefighting Unit. He will share some of the unique challenges that come with fire and emergency medical responses at the airport. But first, I'm joined by Noah Palau, who is the Hazard Planning Coordinator with the Philadelphia Office of Emergency Management. Noah, welcome.
Thanks for having me on, Camila. So a little bit about our department. We're kind of an interesting department within the city. We're really here to help plan for, prepare, and respond to large-scale emergencies. As you mentioned, fire is one of them. We also do severe weather, such as hurricanes and flooding, as well as kind of other special events that we do, such as Super Bowl parades, which hopefully there are more of those.
Yeah, let's hope so. Let's hope so. So tell us about your specific role with OEM.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of different positions within the office, kind of doing planning, preparing, and kind of community engagement. But my specific position as Hazard Planning Coordinator really is to do those long-term risk reduction projects here in the city and help work on the Hazard Mitigation Plan that will help reduce the city's risks to those hazards that we face, such as fire and those flooding events.
Which we will get into the Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Of course.
But first I want to talk about how long have you been with OEM and kind of what brought you to that department?
Yeah, so I've been there for about 2.5 years now, and it's been quite a whirlwind, to say the least. Lots of things that have happened in the last 2.5 years, obviously. But I got in there, I originally went for civil engineering in my undergrad and kind of realized that it wasn't quite my style of events, being always behind the desk, kind of working on things in the background. So I decided to go to urban planning school to kind of get that planning experience. And when I was out of college, I realized I wanted to do something that had a little bit of kind of an field experience. And the Office of Emergency Management had this interesting position as a hazard planning coordinator, doing this long-term risk reduction and kind of being out in the field. There's an on-call component. So it's kind of gets a good combination of being behind a desk planning, but also being out there helping people and helping kind of celebrate different events as well.
Absolutely. Okay. So let's get into the Hazard Mitigation Plan. Okay. So Philadelphia has this 2025 Hazard Mitigation Plan. Describe in more detail what a Hazard Mitigation Plan is.
Yeah, so that's a great question because a lot of people really don't know about this because it is a little bit more of a niche kind of plan, but it does still impact a lot of people across the city. Originally, back in the 80s and 90s, there was kind of a push to do hazard vulnerability analysis, which was really looking at what type of things are we at risk for, such as flooding. I'm sure our neighbors in Manayunk and Eastwick are very familiar with that, and seeing what's kind of at risk and how we can potentially prepare for the economic impacts in the sense of how much is it going to cost if something's damaged. But kind of in the early 2000s, there was a big push from FEMA and the federal government to figure out how do we stop spending so much on these natural disasters, and how do we basically prevent them from happening in the first place. And that's what this hazard mitigation plan is really designed to do. It's designed to look at the big scale picture, what could happen, how much would it cost, but then create a roadmap of here's what the city can do, here's what we're able to respond to and recover from, and fill those gaps between what we're at risk for and what we're able to respond and recover from. And that's really what makes a hazard mitigation plan, is that roadmap, those partners working together to reduce those long-term risks.
Okay, so we talked about, we're going into kind of what hazards are covered by this plan. We talked about fires, floods, other weather emergencies. What other types of hazards are covered in a plan like this?
So there's actually 18 different hazards that are within this plan, which is quite a lot. Some of them are what you'd call our everyday events in some ways, those large-scale fires and flooding that we see often. Extreme temperatures is also another big one that impacts a lot of people. But there's also some more rare ones, such as earthquakes. Yes, we are trying to mitigate earthquakes to some degree. We remember the one last April, actually. So it kind of took everyone by surprise, but it's something we need to be prepared for and plan for. But we also have some other human-caused hazards as well. It's not just natural disasters. It's more human-caused things as well. Things like cyber terrorism that could be scamming people. It could be taking ransomware at hospitals and stuff like that. I'm sure you've seen the news on a lot of those different events. But we also do things like building collapses and structure collapses where, maybe facades fall off of buildings. There are things we can do as a city to help reduce those risks, and that's what this plan is really all about. It's kind of a very large breadth of a little bit of everything.
That's great, because you usually might not initially think of a cybersecurity incident as a hazard, a potential hazard, but what is it? Is it hazard?
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's great to hear you guys are addressing that as well.
This is really for those critical facilities and stuff like that in people's homes. How are we reducing our risk to those particular facilities and kind of making sure that people can continue their daily lives without interruption?
Okay. So what hazards do we tend to see most in Philadelphia? Well, obviously the floods. We talk about Manayunk, those areas that are susceptible to that. But what kind of hazards do we tend to, other than that, what kind of hazards do we tend to see in Philadelphia?
Yeah, the big one really is extreme temperatures. There's many homes, they're many hundreds of years old in some cases, and they don't have air conditioning. So as we've seen, summers are getting hotter. Winters in some cases, they're not quite as cold, but when they are cold, it's much colder. So we see those in a lot of areas, especially in kind of those North Philadelphia neighborhoods where we have an urban heat island effect, where because it's a built-up environment, it can be up to 20 degrees warmer than surrounding areas such as like Fairmount Park, where it's kind of a more baseline temperature. So that's kind of one of our big ones. Another one that we see a lot of is those those large fires in some cases. There was one up in Abington that had impacts in Philadelphia. So we really kind of see those all over the city. So in some cases, some hazards are going to be a little bit more localized, like the flooding, but other ones you're going to see in almost every neighborhood. It's kind of a roll of the dice, as you say, to where some of those could happen.
Okay. Now, other than the flooding, which you mentioned, and also the varying temperatures from neighborhood to neighborhood, are there any other types of hazards that change from neighborhood to neighborhood?
Yeah, so some of them, building and structure collapses could be one that they're a little bit more kind of variable across the city. Some of our neighborhoods are significantly older than others. The Northeast is, maybe 50 years old in some cases, so those homes are going to be newer, and they were built to the modern standards and the modern building codes, while some in Center City and South Philly were built in, the 1850s or earlier. There were no real building codes at that point, and they're just older at that point. So, there's obviously maintenance and stuff like that that needs to be done with houses, but that can kind of impact some of those building and structure collapses. So that's kind of an example of another one that is really going to be concentrated in the older parts of the city.
Okay. Now, we're now the hazard mitigation plan. We're now at the public engagement phase of the plan, and Philadelphians, you need them to pitch in. So how can they do that?
That's a great question. Currently, we do have a website up that you are able to read the plan in its entirety, go through all of our different hazards, kind of our community profile, and what do we want to do as a city to help reduce our risk to these hazards that we've mentioned. There is a survey that you can fill out. We'd love to hear back from you. We've already gotten some feedback so far. But we really like more engagement, more people reading this because you're the expert in your neighborhood, right? I live in one part of the city, but everybody lives somewhere else. And with that, like you have an expertise on your block, your house, and how different hazards impact you in a way that I just don't know. Nor do any of my partners because they also live in various areas as well and have different expertises. So with that, we really want as many people to respond as possible because it gives a kind of that breadth of information that we were looking for and really helps us see different things from a different lens because everyone has a different viewpoint. And we'd like to hear about it and incorporate it.
Sure. And what's the deadline for a response?
Of course. That would be Monday, April 21st.
Okay.
That's when the survey is due, so do take your time and make sure you read through the plan and provided comments. There's a great form we have that kind of lays out going section by section. Shouldn't take you too long to fill out that form and submit it. And any kind of comments are appreciated on it. From surface level, like here's maybe something you missed, to hey, there's a specific corner on my neighborhood that floods, or maybe there's a particular risk there that you see. We'd love to hear about it and try to incorporate it.
Okay, so you hear that, everyone. The deadline's coming up soon, so even if there's something very small that may impact you, that's significant in this plan. So do respond if you can. Now, what kind of feedback? You said you have been receiving feedback. What kind of feedback have you received so far?
Yeah, we actually held 2 public meetings earlier in March. And we had a great conversation with the folks that were there. And we've gotten some comments about very specific blocks within the neighborhoods. But we've also gotten some general comments about just kind of what emergency management can be doing and what hazard mitigations could be done, kind of more on a citywide level and how it's changed over the years. So we've gotten a little bit of both. But we've initially had some feedback in the beginning of the in August, that were kind of initial starting, what do you want to see in the plan? Now we're looking for stuff that's a little bit more specific to the actual draft plan that we've created.
Okay. Now, of course, we must before we go, we must talk about the Ready Philadelphia alerts. Can you tell people what they are and how to sign up?
Of course, it's one of the best ways to get connected to our office and also to learn about what's happening in your neighborhood and across the city. You can text Ready Phila to 888-777. It's pretty easy to sign up and you'll get direct information from our office. It's vetted by our 24/7 watch center. They're watching out for things like road closures, different fires, events that could impact you, and we'll send it out to you when it's relevant. So it won't be maybe some hearsay or something like that. It'll be direct vetted information from us that you can sign up for. And of course, it's available in 11 different languages now, especially if you, so it is. That includes ASL and a whole suite of the top languages in the city here that we've noticed that there's a need for.
That's excellent, excellent. Sign up everyone for those alerts. Noah, I want to thank you again for joining us today, and come on back. Hopefully we'll have you back.
Well, I'm glad to be back.
All right. Well, coming up next, we're joined by Deputy Chief Kamal Bright to talk about the unique challenges and training that come with running a fire station at the Philadelphia International Airport. Stay with us. Freedom from Fire will return in just a few moments. So we can keep talking.
Game is on the line. Championship teams know the game plan. They communicate and work together to win. We all need a game plan to protect ourselves online. Talk to family and friends so they know how to stay safe too. Create strong passwords, turn on multi-factor authentication, update software, and recognize and report phishing, because online safety is not something you want to fumble. Get more game-winning tips at cisa.gov/secure-our-world. Then share them with family and friends.
Children exposed to poor air quality have smaller lungs and higher rates of asthma than children with good air quality. IQ Air Foundation is working to change this, providing filtration technology to school children with poor air quality through the Clean Air for Kids program, helping kids to breathe over 90% cleaner air indoors, removing barriers to learning, reducing sick days, and increasing test scores. This is all key to environmental and climate justice. Find out how you can help at IQAirFoundation.org.
When a child in your life requires intensive care, their health fragile, their condition complex. Certified acute care pediatric and neonatal nurse practitioners will give you the information and support you need to make the best decisions for your child, while providing the critical care your child needs. Trained to diagnose and manage life-threatening conditions and emergencies, they are trained to make a difference. Learn why at certifiednurses.org.
Dear University of...
Thank you for your offer.
To become student ID number 283471.
While I appreciate your desire
for my impeccable academic record,
I must decline the opportunity
to get a generic degree.
I've decided to tell my story.
To be a student,
not a statistic.
I wish you good luck in the future
as I embark on mine.
Welcome back to Freedom from Fire. We're joined now by Deputy Chief Kamal Bright, who is currently stationed at Engine 78, Medic 30, our airport rescue firefighting station at the Philadelphia International Airport. Chief Bright, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so first tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey with PFD.
Sure. I'm a almost 22-year veteran of the department. I came in with the cadet class 177, and through my journey, I feel like I've been very blessed through my career, and I spent a lot of time in special operations. I actually was in special operations at every rank in my career, from firefighter up through battalion chief.
Wow.
So that's something that I take a lot of pride in.
Wow. Okay, so special operations. So what I would say what brought you to where you are at Engine 78, but seems like it's...
So I was assigned to Division 1 on the B, and I got a phone call and asking if I was interested in possibly coming down to the airport to be the new chief. And I, took a ride down and talked to the former chief there, and it fit. It fit for me. It felt like a natural fit. I always had a natural curiosity about aircraft, and so I jumped at the opportunity to go down to Engine 78.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so what kind of what other kinds of apparatus are housed at Engine 78?
So Engine 78 is very unique. We have what's called major crash vehicles. They are the stars of the show down there. Nice. They are very unique and unlike anything that you'll see on the street. The main differences are the size. They are a lot bigger than they may seem in pictures. So we carry 3,000 gallons of water on a major crash truck, as opposed to a 500-gallon tank that a regular street side pumper would carry. And we run with 4 of those trucks. So we have to be able to respond to the airfield to a possible airplane fire and put as much extinguishing agent, water and foam possibly, as quickly as we can. So with that 12,000 gallons of water, we can really, help save people on aircrafts.
Excellent, excellent. So you have that engine, or the crash truck you talked about. You also have Medic 30.
Yes, we have a medic unit assigned. We have a mass casualty unit assigned. We also have a alternate response unit that's in the terminals now. That's fairly new to the airport. We have 2 personnel, 2 paramedics that are actually in the terminals, so that when EMS calls come out to the terminals, they can get to the scene a lot quicker than Medic 30 having to cross the airfield to get to the terminals. So they get there and they determine whether a patient needs to be transported or whether they can continue on to their journey. And the program has been a huge success. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback from both the airport and people that have experienced AR-30.
Okay, and are the calls, they're typical calls that you would get from a medic unit operating out of a firehouse?
Yes,
okay.
The airport is like a mini city. We have over 100,000 people that travel in and out of the airport every year. So we have the typical city calls. We have alarm systems. We have EMS calls. We have fuel spills on the airfield. And we have, we may have quote unquote fire calls for autos or some of the restaurants. But our major program there is to respond to aircraft emergencies.
Okay.
That's what the major crash vehicles are there for, and we call those alerts. So the alerts are aircraft that declare that something is wrong with their plane. They could be either on the ground or coming in for landing, and we actually go out on the airfield and meet the aircraft when they land to make sure that everything is good.
Wow. So we're talking about, aircraft. We're going from aircraft let's say there's a car fire. A typical engine would be responding to a car fire.
Yes.
You're responding to an aircraft emergency. So what kind of training is involved, and how would that training differ from what a typical firefighter would?
Well, one thing that we differ from the rest of the department is we are mandated by the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, with our equipment and with our training. So we have to come down to the airport, you have to go through a 40-hour ARF training class to get the basics in our firefighting. And then you have to do a physical burn at our training center to actually be qualified to work at Engine 78. So all of our trainings and all of our equipment and our trucks, it's all mandated by the FAA.
Okay. Okay. And the ARF is the Airport Rescue Firefighting.
Yes, aircraft rescue firefighting, yes.
Okay. So I want to go to, you have a pretty unique training area.
Yes.
We're staying on training. We have some video to demonstrate that. Okay. So can you tell us about what we're seeing here?
Sure. We have a fire training center that's down the street from our firehouse. And we have two props. We have a fuel spill trainer, and we have a aircraft simulator. So the fuel spill trainer simulates an external fire of an aircraft. Generally, that would be upon impact, fuel spilling, getting a spark and catching fire. That's what the video was demonstrating, putting out that fuel spill type of fire with one of the major crash trucks. The simulator is an actual prop of an actual aircraft where they have seats inside, a working cockpit, a working laboratory, a working alternative power unit or APU, which is a generator on the plane that works the air conditioning when the plane is sitting on the on the tarmac.
Okay.
So we're able to simulate different types of emergencies of the plane while it's, if it's on the ground.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Now you also have you do water training?
Yes.
There's training to be able to water rescues. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure.
What that entails?
So we have two, it's called rigid hull inflatable boats, two 16-foot rigid hull inflatable boats housed in a boathouse, which is about, say, a couple thousand feet away from the firehouse that opens off into the Delaware River. So we are prepared in case a plane either takes off and doesn't get the airspace and goes into the Delaware, or if they're coming in to land and we call it coming up short of the runway and goes into the Delaware, we're able to go out as first responders to stabilize the incident until our neighboring resources come in and help us. But with those boats, we're able to get out there and deploy life rafts and throw sticks. And the mission of that particular mission is to put as many things on the water that floats so that people can kind of self-save themselves and keep their head above water.
Okay. Now, is that part of the ARF training, the 40-hour training, or is that training that you all do once you're on the in this particular
So it's not a part of the 40-hour ARF training, but it is a part of a separate water rescue training that we employ for new people coming down, and it's basically boat operations.
Okay.
We teach them how to drive the boat on a river.
Okay.
How to safely do it, and they actually get their PA boater's license through the process.
Oh wow. Okay, that's great. So what are the typical I guess intangibles are you looking for people who be coming down to the airport?
Absolutely. We love people that are looking for a challenge. You see things at the airport that you may not see in other places, and you have to be very self-motivated because we train a lot. We train for the things that we never want to see is one of the things that I like to say. So we do a lot of training, and it's a lot of hard work and dedication, but you have to be self-motivated, and you have to come down for the right reasons to kind of expand your knowledge about a different aspect of firefighting.
Okay, and can you tell me, you've been in this particular position for how many years?
Coming up on 3 years in June.
Years.
Yes.
Okay, so can you tell me, coming in, having now this being in your third year, can you tell us about any maybe unique experience that you've had, or something unusual that has happened since you've been in this role that maybe you weren't expecting?
Sure. We had a small plane come into land, and the front wheel collapsed on landing. So it wasn't, no one was hurt. There were no injuries. It wasn't a lot of damage to the plane, but the plane had to be towed from the airfield. And so it exercised our response and our plans to get out. And we've had some other incidents where a plane would come in and lose power on as soon as they land, they would lose power.
Wow.
And we would have to go out there and make sure that folks are all right on the airplane, and then the plane would have to be towed back to the terminals.
Wow.
So there's some unique things that go on down there, but we're very big on customer service.
Wow, that's excellent. Well, we're definitely grateful to have you all down there, and thank you so much for all the work you do, keeping us safe in the air and when we land.
Yep, thank you for having me.
All right, excellent. So that's all the time we have for today. To learn more about the PFD, including fire and life safety information and job opportunities, visit phila.gov/fire. And if you would like to keep up with our show, Freedom from Fire, look for us on Verizon Channel 36, Comcast Channel 56, and LaSalle TV's YouTube page. Also, please check out Fireman's Hall Museum, located at 147 North 2nd Street. You'll get to meet our resident historian, firefighter Brian Anderson, and learn about the history of the Philadelphia Fire Department. To our guests, Noah Palau with OEM and Chief Kamal Bright with Engine 78, thank you both for joining us and sharing your story. Remember, fire is everyone's fight. Stay safe.